City of Sheffield Diving Club. Willow Deniff, City of Sheffield Diving Club. Olivia Loney, City of Leeds Diving Club. Flo Hall, City of Leeds Diving Club. Daisy Costello, City of Leeds Diving Club. Gaia de Vries, City of Sheffield Diving Club. Libby Edelson, Star Diving Club, Guildford. And Ema Southerly, City of Sheffield Diving Club.
And now please welcome the competitors in the Open Group A platform event. And our first diver, Jasper Hussain, Amersham Swimming Club. Max Goodwin, Dive London Aquatics Club. Ryan Spiteri, Southampton Diving Academy. Fred Crossley, City of Leeds Diving. And Finley Stratford, Albatross Diving Club Reading.
And can we welcome the officials on the female Group D 3-meter event, starting with our referee, Roger Page. Judge 1, Lexi Bushnell. Judge 2, Joel Trenchard. Judge 3, Lizzie Powley. Judge 4, Thomas Streeton. And Judge 5, Sophie Bolton.
And please may I introduce ours on platform. Our referee is Emily Saunders. Judge 1 is Julie Pisano. Judge 2, Cherry Ewing. Judge 3, Matt Pipe. Judge 4, Declan Rogan. And Judge 5, Tommy Hawkins.
And do we have referee's permission on 3-meter?
And do we have the referee's permission to begin on the platform, please?
And 3-meter, thank you. Starting with Lydia Wade, City of Leeds Diving Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
Thank you very much, Emily. And our first diver on platform, Jasper Hussain, Amersham Swimming Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5. Alexa Cooper, Darlington ASC, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
5, 6, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Max Goodwin, Dive London Aquatics Club, arm stand, somersault, piked, 10 metre.
4, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. Betsy Crossley, City of Leeds Diving Club, forward dive, piked. 5, 5, 4.5, 5, 5. All again for City of Leeds Diving Club, inward dive, piked.
6, 5, 6, 6, 6. Ryan Spiteri, Southampton Diving Academy, forward 1.5 somersaults, with tuck, 7.5 metre.
6, 6.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Claudia Gibb, Edinburgh Diving Club, inward dive, piked.
7, 6.5, 6.5, 6, 5. Fred Crossley, City of Leeds Diving Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked, 10 metre.
5.5, 6.5, 6, 6, 5. Lily Houseago, Star Diving Club, Guildford, back dive, piked.
8, 7.5, 8.5, 9, 7.5. Finley Stratford, Albatross Diving Club Reading, forward 1.5 somersaults piked, 7.5 metre.
5.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 4.5. Ayla Jackson, City of Sheffield Diving Club, inward dive piked.
5, 5, 5.5, 5, 6. Round 2 on platform. Jasper, inward dive piked, 7.5 metre.
6.5, 6.5, 5.5, 5.5, 6. Swara Surayavanshi, City of Leeds Diving Club, forward 1.5 somersaults piked.
6.5, 7, 7, 6.5, 6. Max, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck, 7.5 metre.
5, 5, 5, 4, 5. Beth Moxon, City of Sheffield Diving Club, inward dive piked.
5, 5.5, 6, 5, 5.5.
No, 6.5, 7, 7, 7, 6.
Ryan, inward 1.5 somersaults piked, 7.5 metre.
Willow Deniff, City of Sheffield Diving Club, inward dive piked. 6, 7.5, 6, 6, 5. Olivia Loney, City of Leeds Diving Club, inward dive piked.
5.5, 6.5, 6, 6, 5.5. Fred, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position, 10 metre.
5.5, 5.5, 4.5, 5, 5.5. Flo Hall, City of Leeds Diving Club, forward 1.5 somersaults piked.
7, 7.5, 7, 8.5, 7.5. Finley, back dive, piked, 7.5 metre.
5, 5, 5.5, 5, 5. Daisy Costello, City of Leeds Diving Club, forward dive piked.
5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Round 3 on platform. Jasper, back dive, piked, 5 metre.
5, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 5. Gaia De Vries, City of Sheffield Diving Club, inward dive piked.
6, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 6. Max, back dive, piked, 7.5 metre.
5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Libby Edelson, Star Diving Club, Guildford, inward dive piked.
4.5, 4.5, 5, 5, 4.5, 5.
7, 5.5, 5, 7, 7.
Ryan, back dive piked 7.5 metre.
Ema Satherley, City of Sheffield Diving Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
4.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 4.5.
7.5, 7.5, 8, 7.5, 7.
Fred, back dive piked 7.5 metre.
Round 2 on 3 metres with Lydia, inward dive, piked.
7.5, 8, 8, 8, 8. Finlay, reverse dive with tuck 5 metre.
6.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Alexa, inward dive, piked.
4, 5.5, 4.5, 4, 6. Round 4 on platform. Jasper, back 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position 7.5 metre.
5, 5, 4.5, 4.5, 5.5. Betsy, inward dive, piked.
5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 4.5, 5.5. Max, back 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position 7.5 metre.
3.5, 4.5, 4, 4, 4. Orla, back dive with tuck.
6, 6.5, 6.5, 6, 6. Ryan, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position 5 metre.
5.5, 5.5, 4.5, 4, 4.5. Claudia, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
5, 6.5, 6.5, 6, 5.5. Fred, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked 7.5 metre.
7, 6, 6.5, 5.5, 6. Lily, reverse dive with tuck. 6.5, 6.5, 7, 6, 7. Ayla, back dive, piked.
5.5, 6, 6, 5, 6.5. Finlay, arm stand somersault, piked 7.5 metre.
4.5, 5, 4.5, 5.5, 5. Swara, inward dive, piked.
3.5, 5.5, 4, 3.5, 5.5. Round 5 on platform, Jasper, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck, 5 metre. Five, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 6. Max, arm stand, double somersault, piked, 10 metre.
5.5, 6, 5.5, 5, 6. Beth, back dive, piked. Five and a half, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5.
5.5, 6, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5.
Willow, back dive, piked.
Ryan, inward 2.5 somersaults with tuck, 7.5 metre.
Four and a half, 5.5, 4.5, 4, 4. Olivia, back dive with tuck.
3.5, 3.5, 3, 3.5, 4.5. Fred, forward 2.5 somersaults piked, 7.5 metre.
4.5, 5, 5, 4.5, 5. Flo, back dive, piked.
7.5, 8, 7, 7.5, 8. Finley, forward 2.5 somersaults piked, 7.5 metre.
6, 7, 6, 6, 5.5. Daisy, inward dive, piked.
3.5, 4.5, 4, 3.5, 6. Round 6 on platform. Jasper, forward 2.5 somersaults piked, 7.5 metre.
5.5, 5, 5, 5.5, 5. Gaia, forward dive, piked.
4, 4.5, 5, 4, 5.5. Max, inward 2.5 somersaults with tuck, 7.5 metre.
4.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 5. Libby, back dive, piked.
5, 5, 5, 4, 5. Ryan, forward 1.5 somersaults, 2 twists, free position, 7.5 metre.
4.5, 4, 4, 4, 4. Ema, back dive, piked.
3, 5, 3, 4, 4. Fred. Inward, 2.5 somersaults with tuck, 7.5 metre.
7.5, 7, 8.5, 7.5, 7. On to round 3. Lydia, back dive, piked.
5, 5.5, 5, 4.5, 6. Finley, reverse, 1.5 somersaults with tuck, 5 metre.
5.5, 4.5, 5, 5, 5. Alexa, back dive, piked.
4, 4, 3.5, 3, 4.5. And our final round of dives on platform, round 7. Jasper Hussain, Amersham Swimming Club, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position, 7.5 metre.
3, 2.5, 2.5, 3, 2.5. Betsy, back dive with tuck.
6, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6. Max Goodwin, Dive London Aquatics, forward, 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist piked, 10 metre.
6, 5, 5.5, 4.5, 6. Orla, reverse dive with tuck. 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 6.5.
5, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 5.5.
Claudia, back 1.5 somersaults with tuck.
Ryan Spiteri, Southampton Diving Academy, forward, 2.5 somersaults piked, 10 metre.
4, 3, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5.
4, 4, 4, 4, 4.5.
Lily, forward 1.5 somersaults piked.
Fred Crossley, City of Leeds Diving Club, back 2.5 somersaults, half twist piked, 10 metre.
6, 6, 6.5, 6, 6. Ayla, reverse dive with tuck.
7, 7.5, 7.5, 8, 7. Finley Stratford, Albatross Diving Club Reading, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck, 5 metre.
5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Swara, back dive with tuck.
5, 5, 4.5, 4.5, 5. And that concludes the platform event. Thank you, divers, coaches, team managers, officials, and volunteers. We will have those results shortly.
Four and a half, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5. Beth, reverse dive, piked. 6, 5.5, 6, 6, 5.5. Willow, reverse dive with tuck. 4.5, 4.5, 5, 5, 5. Olivia, reverse dive with tuck. 5, 5, 5.5, 5, 5. Flow. Forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position. Four, 4, 4, 4, 5. Daisy, reverse dive with tuck. 3, 3, 3.5, 2, 3. Gaia, back dive with tuck. 4.5, 4, 4, 5, 4.5. Libby, reverse dive with tuck. 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 6. Ema, reverse dive, piked. 6.5, 5, 6, 5.5, 5. We're on to round 4, divers. The referee will now be using the whistle to signal when you are good to go. Lydia, reverse dive piked. Four and a half, 5, 3, 4. Alexa, reverse dive with tuck. Three, 4, 3, 2, 3 and a half. Betsy, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. Four and a half, 5, 5.5, 5. Orla, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. Four, 4.5, 5, 5, 4.5. Claudia, reverse 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Four, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 4. Lily, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Six, 6.5, 6, 6. Ayla, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. Five, 4.5. Swara, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Six, 6.5, 6, 6, 6. Beth, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. 7, 6.5, 6.5, 7, 6. Willow, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. 5, 4, 5, 5, 5. Olivia, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. 4, 3, 3.5, 4.5, 4. Flow, forward 2.5 somersaults with tuck. 4.5, 4, 4.5, 4.5, 4. Daisy, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. 4.5, 5.5, 5, 4, 5. Gaia, reverse dive with tuck. 6.5, 5, 6, 5.5, 7. Libby, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. 4.5, 6, 5.5, 6, 6.5. Ema, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked. 7, 6.5, 7.5, 7, 6. Fifth and final round. Lydia Wade, City of Leeds Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked. 4.5, 5, 5.5, 5, 6. Alexa Cooper, Darlington ASC, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. 4, 5, 5, 5, 4.5. Betsy Crossley, City of Leeds Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. 4.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 5.5. All again for City of Leeds Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6, 5.5. Claudia Gibb, Edinburgh Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. 4.5, 5.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Lily has a go. Back, Star Diving Club, Guildford. Back 1.5 somersaults with tuck. 7.5, 6.5, 7, 6, 6. Ayla Jackson, City of Sheffield Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4, 5.5. Swara Soraya Vanchi, City of Leeds Diving Club, back 1.5 somersaults with tuck. 2, 2.5, 2.5, 1.5, 2.5. Beth Moxon, City of Sheffield Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Hold the boards, please. And we are able to continue, and I shall re-announce Beth Moxham, City of Sheffield Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Four and a half, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4. Willow Denniff, City of Sheffield Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Five, 6, 6.5, 5.5, 5.5. Olivia Loney, City of Leeds Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Five and a half, 5.5, 5.5, 3, 5. Flo Hall, City of Leeds Diving Club, back 1.5 somersaults, piked. Six, 6, 6, 5.5, 6.5. Daisy Costello, City of Leeds Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults, tucked, with tuck. Five and a half, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5.5. Gaia De Vries, City of Sheffield Diving Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. Four and a half, 4, 4.5, 5, 4.5. Libby Edelson, Star Diving Club, Guildford, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Five and a half, 5, 5, 5.5, 6. And finally, Ema Satherley, City of Sheffield Diving Club, forward 2.5 somersaults with tuck. 5, 4.5, 4.5, 5, 4.5. Thank you, divers, coaches, team managers, officials and volunteers. That concludes this final session of the Go-Cardless Swim England Diving National Age Groups 2024. And a reminder to athletes that there are to be no mobile phone use in changing rooms.